I'm not a failure.
Right. It's a huge topic, and I would love to
I
keep
know.
talking
I'm
to
like,
you.
you could talk about it for months.
No, yeah, I mean, it's amazing, but but
Now you know what's wrong with me, Armando. I just
now
put
I
it out on
know.
the. I
Now I
know.
know.
Now you're like, oh my God, this is really.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Live Talk. Anna, lovely to see you
Hello.
again.
Thank you.
I haven't seen you since last week.
I know.
Uh, Today we have an interesting topic for all of our viewers. And before I begin, let me mention it right away. For everyone who is watching us, thank you very much for your how do you call that, loyalty, for watching us every week. Anna's contact information is in the description box. Email, LinkedIn, YouTube
Instagram.
channel,
Yep.
Instagram, everything is in there. If you want to get to know more about her uh, coaching services, write her a note, and she will get back to you. Right, Anna? And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need your support. Anna's channel and my channel, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up, because that will help us to keep creating content in our humble uh, YouTube channel. I mean, we're beginners, but we're doing our best, right, Anna?
That's right. Doing the best that we can. We're not like, 17. So this is really like a more of a challenge. It's a big learning curve, especially
I
for
know,
me.
it's amazing.
Armando is very, very much ahead of the game
Oh my,
that I'm like a slacking behind, but I'm learning slowly.
well, that that good thing is that we're working together, and that's much better than working alone. I mean, working alone is
Yeah.
much tedious and boring and things like that. So I appreciate you being my co-host every week. I mean, I enjoy it, on the personal level. But I mean, I think talking to you about many different subjects is great, and for our
Hmm.
viewers, hopefully, we are adding some value to their lives. And today,
Yes, I hope so.
yeah, I'm sure. And today's topic is very interesting, very special, because we're going to talk about self-esteem. Self-esteem is a huge issue. I mean, I don't think. Uh, I mean, self-esteem is really big in teenage years, right? I mean, our bodies are changing, we are developing, we are trying to find, who we are, our identity, our character. We're trying to be grown-ups, and to find our goals in life and things like that, right? We
Yeah.
fall in love, and fall out of love. I think,
It is high school, you break up and
yeah.
you have all these
So
broken heart and all the drama.
in a very too much going on those years, and self. I mean, we the human being, uh, we suffer through those years. It's very difficult, but I think sometimes adults suffer from low self-esteem. What do you think, Anna? Is that is something that adults, I mean, not only teenagers, but 20, people in their 20s and their 30s, in their 50s, maybe?
I think it's a lifelong pursuit for a lot of people. But I mean, when you speak about teenagers, I actually remember as a child when
Hmm.
my self-esteem fell
Yeah,
off.
really? Okay.
It didn't happen when I was 12, 13. Those are really difficult years, those
Hmm.
transition years. But I think it starts much earlier because if,
Okay.
and just from a, personal and even a psychological standpoint, where, if we don't have healthy attachments as children in our really formative years,
Hmm.
it messes with us long before we get to the dreaded teenage years and those awkward stages.
Hmm.
Um, and for me personally, I remember really liking myself. And I have all these pictures. Oh my God. I was just like, how Honey Boo Boo, I don't know if you know Honey Boo
Yeah,
Boo,
yeah.
but okay, the reality when she was little and she was like, and she'd just be out there with her go-go juice and she was, in the beauty pageant and she was a
Right.
trip and she loved herself. And
Right.
I remember I was similar in like I have all these pictures and I'd have this little tape tube top on and these little polyester tight, and you couldn't fit a penny in my pocket. These little bell bottom pants, and my little tummy would be hanging right out. And
Right.
I'd be like, Shazam, Shazam, like all like modeling these little poses. But I was little, I was like 5, 6. And all of a sudden, though, I remember when that ended. And I even did it even before I was 3, 4, and my grandparents were thought I was adorable, and I'd
Uh-huh.
sing into like the humidifier, like the cord, for the appliance. And I'd be
Right.
singing and I'd dance and I'd go to all the little parties in our big family,
Mm-hmm.
the extended family. And I would put on a show and it was like, oh, Shazam. And then all of a sudden, I went from that to being a complete introvert.
Really?
And I
What happened?
remember when I was 4, I started kindergarten when I was 4. And I know like that's like you have to start school at 9 months old these days, but back
Right.
then, I was like a year ahead. So I remember I went to a public school just for
Mm-hmm.
1 year,
Mm-hmm.
but the bus came to my house. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember the kids in the neighborhood, they they would like pick on me. And we would say bullying nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
but back then it's like, well, who didn't get picked on? But
Right.
they would push me off the seat and I'd sit on the floor of the bus. And the bus
Really?
driver never got involved. And it started then. And it was just like that constant, like
Right.
picking,
Right.
picking, picking. And because I was really tall in kindergarten, I looked like I was probably 7 or 8 because I was already taller than everybody. And I was a little bit husky. I
Mm-hmm.
like to use that word, but I
Healthy.
wasn't
You
like
were
this big
healthy.
girl. I was very healthy, but and I wasn't. I mean, and I look back at the picture, I'm like, I'm just a normal little kid. I'm just bigger than the other kids because first
Right.
of all, I'm about 6'4", like and then like when I was like kindergarten, I'm like standing in the back. I'm taller than all the boys at that point. I mean, I'm
Right.
only 5'8" now, but I grew very quickly. Even in my teenagers, I grew quickly and then I stopped. But that's when it happened. And when we're little, we want to fit in, right? We want to be part of the
Right.
crowd. Well, I already stood out. And then they picked at me and picked at me. Well, after
And
that,
and
my
kids
parents,
kids at that age
kids
can be
are
mean.
cruel.
They're
They're
cruel.
very mean.
Uh,
And honestly, I'm sorry, but they learned it at home.
yeah.
And because they don't have that many influences at 5, you know.
Mm,
Um, and I remember my parents pulled me out of public school after that, and I never went back and I never rode the
mm,
bus again.
mm,
But it already started. And then that created a bigger issue because I got to go to a private school in another
mm.
city and I got driven. And then the kids, then that was even more of a target for them. And so it just is that, you know, repetitive bullying, really. I mean, and so
Right.
I would stay in my house. I didn't want to come out of the house. And
So that
we
was
lived
my
in a,
the
yeah.
question that I have. I mean, did you find a way to deal with that, or did you just like
It was internalized
kept it
and
to yourself?
I ate.
Okay. Okay.
And I stayed in the house and I and
So
I
you,
became
you
very
didn't have friends to talk about that, or
I had one friend in our neighborhood. She was my best friend and my mom babysat for her.
okay.
And so no, I that was it. Other than her,
Mm,
no. And
mm,
I had big sisters, but they were so much older. My one sister
mhm,
moved out when I was 3. She moved out of the house. That's how big of an age gap. She was 17 or 18 years old. I mean, that's
mm.
a big gap.
That's a big gap,
But
yeah.
yeah, so they would try to protect me, my middle sister especially, but it was just I remember that feeling and I know exactly. It just I fell off and I transformed into this person who was my mother called me a house plant. I never went outside. I never because
You
it
never
was
get the
always
sunlight.
I never got the sunlight. I'd hide in
No,
the backyard.
no.
Um, and my escape was when, we would go away on the weekends.
Right.
Um, but I
And you
remember
mentioned
that.
before that you had a good relationship with your father, and you got to do a lot of things with him. And
Yes,
that
always.
was
And that was I mean, but thank God, but they didn't know all these things. I
right,
didn't go home and cry to my mom and dad that the kids down the street were mean to me. I never, you just dealt with it. And
right.
then So I remember long before then, Armando. So I think it starts for some of us when we're
Mm,
little tiny. And if we have unhealthy attachments or anxiety or avoidant attachment styles
mhm,
with our caregivers, which I had healthy attachments to my parents,
mhm.
especially my, you know how I feel about my dad
Right.
and my mother too, but he was the primary influence for me. But even then, I had unhealthy attachments with my peers. So it started right back then. And for some
Mm.
people, it doesn't. They're like, yeah, we fall down, we scrape our knees, we get back up. Everybody gets picked on in school, even the popular kids. I mean,
So
that's why like we didn't
they
make a
just
big
deal
thing
with
of it.
it as they can.
Just deal with it as it comes. Like none of us gets out of childhood unscathed. So that's why I never thought, oh, I'm not special. Like some of these kids got tormented. But then we get into, like you said, that tween stage. And I remember wanting to play with Barbies one day, and the next day I wanted to read, Vogue magazine that my sisters would be reading or Cosmopolitan. I didn't have a clue what that stuff was talking about, but I remember vacillating between wanting to be a little kid and wanting to be treated like an adult.
Right. Yeah.
And you
That's the
have
transition time,
kids
right?
and you have kids in that
I
transition,
know.
and it's hard.
It's hard.
And then we go from there, and those those years really affect us. And then we get into our adult years, and when we have a setback or a failure or things don't work out, a lot of time it affects us. It affects
Well,
us if we don't have the right coping skills and a healthy foundation of self
mm,
to say, oh, well, that's your problem. I still like me. Like, oh, that didn't work out. No worries. It's just it's a setback. I'm not a failure.
right.
Mhm.
Well, I'm looking at the clock. It's a huge topic, and I would love to
I
keep
know.
talking
I'm
to you.
like, we could talk about it for months.
No, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. But, but
Now you know what's wrong with me, Armando. I just
now
put
I
it out on
know.
the, I
Now I
know.
know.
Now you're like, oh my God, this is really,
Well,
no.
I
But it's just
think,
being very transparent, because people look at us and think, oh,
right.
he's got it together. Oh, she's got it together. They have
Mm,
no worries in the world. They got all this
no,
stuff figured out. I'm like,
mm,
no, we do this and we're good at this because we've been there.
we've been there, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, I think that's thank you. I appreciate that you are saying that because you're sharing something very personal. But I believe that I mean, I can relate to your story, and I believe many people can relate to that. And I mentioned in one of our previous videos, I forgot how long ago, that I went to something like that, and how it was one single comment that pulled me out of that trance, out of that belief.
Oh, what
Remember
was
that?
it?
Do you remember
Yeah, like these. What
the,
was
the,
it?
well, I went to get a haircut to a neighborhood saloon, and it was full of ladies, and I can remember that I was about 12 or 13 years old, and kids used to make fun of me because of my eyes, because according to them I had big eyes, and
Your
and they
beautiful eyes.
well, that's exactly what
Oh my
one of
God.
that's exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it. But that's exactly what one of the ladies in the saloon said. I was getting my haircut, and I remember that I was about 13. But I'm a young boy, getting into my teenage years. So I noticed beautiful, the beauty of the female species.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed exactly that lady, and I was getting my haircut, and at the end of my haircut, um, uh, she called me. It's like, son, come here. I said, like, may I touch your eyes? And you've been in Mexico, you know how we are in Mexico.
Oh
We're
yeah.
very,
Mm-hmm.
very, very
Mm-hmm.
touchy, right?
I
So,
love it.
so she said, may I touch your eyes? And so, like, sure. So she put her hands on my eyes, and she said, you have beautiful eyes. And then she, in a loud voice, she mentioned, to the other ladies in the room, doesn't he have beautiful eyes? And yeah, 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 yeah. And then in my head, of course, I was flattered, getting this much of attention, the young Armando, and then in my head at the same time, it's like, oh, these kids, they were lying to me this whole time. I
They
don't
were
have. So
liars.
the lie, I know, and that one single comment broke the chain. that
That's excellent.
it broke the chain because like, I'm not horrible, and I'm not saying I'm a model. That's not what I'm saying. But it changed something in me. It
Hmm.
changed the way I saw myself and how I felt about myself.
Yes.
And I believe many people don't have that break in life. They
Mhm.
don't get that chance to I mean, to get a good feedback, or to build us up, or to help us to see ourselves under a different light.
That's
Um,
right.
and many, I agree with you. I mean, I think many people will carry that through their teenage years and into their adulthood,
Yes.
and they might suffer because of that. And it's a domino effect, don't you
Oh,
think?
it is. It is. I agree because whether, and sometimes whether, somebody doesn't get a break or we are told by a certain person, usually our parents, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so that we have had so many years of negative self-talk
Mm.
back here telling us, no, you're not, no, you're not. These people just validated that you're not worthy, you're not pretty, you're not handsome, you're not smart. The
Right.
teacher pulled you out of school and, made an example of you and, said that you were dumb, that
Loser.
we believe it. And so when
Yeah.
somebody comes along to say, Armando, you have beautiful eyes. I mean, I'm so glad that you were open and able to accept that, and especially at that age. But I think sometimes when we've had years of this rhetoric going ruminating over and over and over, telling us no, no, no. And of course, our thoughts become our life, right? We things happen to us and we validate. See, I told you. I
Mm.
told you you were stupid. I told you you
Yeah,
weren't
and it
good
gets
enough. Or
reinforced,
and it gets reinforced. And so again, and it perpetuates. So we think about it more, and that's what our lives become because we look for validation, negative or positive, for those things. And
Mm.
so even by the time you become validated by the outside world, and you're 23,
The damage is
oh,
already
well, it's
done.
it's the damage is done, and you spend a lifetime going, no, you can't be telling me the truth. I'm
Mm.
not smart. I'm not. My husband says, I need to learn to
There's
read
something wrong
better,
with you.
or yeah, there's something wrong with you, or like, I wish you were more like Kathy, or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, oh,
we
horrible, isn't it? Oh.
oh, we do, and the things that we say to people, and sometimes we only think of our own perspective when we're speaking something out and not realizing what somebody has endured, the trauma that
Mm.
they are not even aware of. And so it basically it reinforces and it re-triggers that, and it just solidifies that negative
Right,
belief system that
right.
is so hard for people to let go of. Well, what if
Mm.
I let go of that and nobody sees, how amazing I am, and we pull back. So we hold on to that because it's our safety blanket by then.
Mm. Yeah, amazing.
It's so damaging, Armando. I
Right,
wish people could see and hear ourselves and and
right,
and ingrain into our children about kindness and love, and about especially about, again, it goes back to the foundation of self.
right.
It's my new term.
Mm.
Because if we don't have a strong, healthy sense of ourselves, that's when your house of cards falls apart.
Mm.
You don't, because you don't know who you are. And so it
Mm.
changes with the wind. That's when, we find ourselves in situations and we think, why did I do that? Why did I go along with this crowd? Why did I
Mm.
make that decision? Because we don't have a healthy sense of saying, you know what, that's not for me. You can
Right,
say what you want. You can pick at me, you can criticize me, but I'm standing in my truth.
right.
So often we don't have the voice to advocate for ourselves, and that is why.
Mm.
So we move these boundaries, or we allow people to abuse us, or we allow people to speak into our lives in a negative way. And
Mm.
you're a religious man. There is the power of life and death lies in the tongue.
I know that is perfect. I mean, that's a great Bible verse, really. Anna, I know you are a coach and you specialize, among other things, on this subject. So, if everyone is watching and is in need of a coach, somebody to talk to, if you are dealing with low self-esteem and you want to get out of that, get in touch with Anna. Her contact information is on the description box below. Everything you need to get in touch with Anna is right there. Please do. Anna, we're coming to the end of our talk today. I mean, I'm sure we will be keep talking about this subject because it's huge.
It's huge.
It's huge, and and hopefully through these videos, like we said before, hopefully we are adding some value to some of our viewers. What would be one thing? I mean, I know it's unfair. I mean, it's a huge thing, but if you could give us one advice, I mean, for somebody that is suffering with low self-esteem, what would be a good practical thing that people could consider, to get started on their way to recovery or to improve their self-esteem?
Pick one thing about yourself that you like. One thing.
Mhm.
Everybody has something. And I know I have clients who go, I can't think of anything right now. Oh, yes, you can.
Mhm.
One thing. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be, I'm a good crafter.
Okay.
I'm a great listener. I'm a good parent, or I have beautiful eyes. I have, I have an award-winning sense of humor. I mean, something, anything. I'm a fast reader.
Mm.
Whatever. I love dogs. It doesn't matter. Pick one thing you
One
like.
thing.
One thing. Focus on that one thing.
Okay.
Repeat it. Think about it. Allow yourself to visualize that one good thing. Put together a scenario in your mind where you're playing out your one good quality.
Okay.
Visualization is very powerful in changing
Yes.
our self perspective, and then give gratitude for it.
Okay.
Be
All right.
thankful, because when we're living in gratitude, it's very difficult to be in a low vibration. It's very hard. You can't be a victim and a victor
Right.
at the same time.
Same time.
So think of the one thing, give gratitude, and keep thinking about that one thing, because what happens is we'll start adding to the list and adding to the list and
Beautiful.
adding to the list.
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful advice. Anna, I'm going to put you on the spot. Tell me one good thing about you.
Oh, I am an amazing award-winning personality.
There you go. That's good. That's
She's
great.
It's the proverbial. She's a nice person.
It's a nice person. Well, I think you are nice. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a great talk. We'll be back next week. Please tune in. Tune in. And Anna, until next week, I wish you a successful and blessed week. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.